and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by a man who finished runner-up in the TSS Derby. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello, for like the fourth time in a row, I think. It's not going well against Wolverhampton.
It's going well for me.
That's true.
So we were in studio yesterday. We saw Wolves versus Man United in the Premier League. The TSS Derby, if you don't know, I'm a Wolves fan. Taylor's a Manchester United fan. Elliot joined us of River City 93, also a Manchester United fan. It finished 2-1 to Wolves again.
Which, I was not as surprised by. I think I was more surprised because I let myself hope because United took the early lead. But given, again, the way the results have gone previously, I was sort of always a little bit concerned, and my concerns proved valid.
So this can't just be me gloating, right? That's not good audio.
I mean, it could be, and I wouldn't be surprised if it were. But it wouldn't be the best audio, no.
But we're going to try and be neutral and dig into this game and give it some of the old TSS analysis.
Neutral is a word. We're going to give it the analysis.
We'll give it the analysis, yeah. Okay, so
I want to start off by cursing Ashley Young.
Let's start off talking about Ashley Young, because to me, the interesting thing when the teams were selected is that United went with a back three, which they didn't do last time they played Wolves. And one of the back three, the right centre-back, was Ashley Young, who started life as a right winger, attacking midfielder, slowly gravitated back to right back as he's got older. Not really a right centre back. And it did not go well, right? He's maybe to blame. He's in part to blame for the first goal. Then he gets sent off in the second half, which makes things very bad for Manchester United. We'll get into the details of why that wasn't great. Why would Ole Gunnar Solskjaer do this to begin with? Why would he put Young at right centre-back?
So I think what we've deduced from what he said and what we saw from the FA Cup game is that against Wolves, basically United got caught on that counter-attack. And even though they tried
second goal, especially in the FA Cup, right?
Yeah, and so they tried to be a little bit aggressive, and I think it did not work out. And so I think the thinking here was we'll go back three, we'll keep those centre-backs back. They won't be able to kind of run through as much as they did. And then we can use those wingers to force the ball wide and maybe try to stretch Wolverhampton out just a little bit to maybe open up some space.
And it almost worked. Dalot, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, who was playing right wing back. He got forward a lot. He had that great cross really early on for the Lukaku point blank header, which could very easily have been a goal. I kind of think Patricio was just right place, right time to get in the way of that.
That's
header.
what it takes, man.
So it could have worked. But still, okay, back three makes sense maybe because you want the wingers. But if you're going to go three centre-backs, why not Phil Jones, an actual centre-back, over Ashley Young, who is actually not a centre-back?
I mean, my guess, I think what we talked about a little bit, I think your thought was speed, right?
Yeah, or at least maybe mobility. Because if you're up against, say, Jimenez and Jota, they're pretty quick. If Wolves do hit you on the counter, then maybe Ashley Young's a bit quicker to cover ground and make up ground than Phil Jones might be.
And then my only other thought would be, as it's going to sound ironic given the way things went, is that maybe Phil Jones is thought of as more of like a blunt instrument. Like he is your center back that you put in there to be a center back, to win the ball, to win those aerial challenges. Yeah. That's why he comes in late for United in this game, is I think because they're defending and they want just a pure defender in there to try to cover some ground and kind of clear out some chances.
I like the idea of him as a pure defender, like the ingredients are just pour in a load of defense and we're done.
More so than Ashley Young, because I do think that Ashley Young was there maybe to be a bit more mobile, to make some runs forward, to kind of combine with Dalot and maybe pull some Wolves players out, or just to create overloads that cause problems that then set United up to capitalize on those problems.
Yes, okay, that makes sense. And Man United did take the lead.
Yeah.
Man United did take the lead.
I do think I've come around to the idea. At first I still am a little bit confused as to why they hired Solskjaer when they did. But
You mean permanently?
Yes.
When they gave him the full-time contract.
Exactly. But I've come around on the idea that this wasn't necessarily him getting anything wrong. I really think it was United executed their game plan until Wolves kind of hit him in the mouth, and then I think they panicked a bit, and then the red card didn't help.
But isn't it an argument that because Ashley Young is at fault for the goal and at fault for the red card, that is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer getting something wrong?
I would say more so for the goal than the red card, because I think the red card is just him sort of, like, that challenge could have happened anywhere. I think
he could have played right back or right wing and made those two yellow card challenges.
Yeah, and I think, yes, Ashley Young slightly at fault, but obviously Fred much more at fault for that goal. And I think that's one where, again, the individual effort let him down.
Fair enough. Okay, so should we talk about the Man United goal first, since it happened first? It had already happened when we were closing up yesterday's show, and you knew because you had that little twinkle in your eye when we were saying goodbye.
I was briefly happy.
Scott McTominay, his first goal for Manchester United, he had that he's got a very young boy grin on him, right? After he scored.
Yeah. I mean, as you would. I think also growing up a United fan probably doesn't hurt with that.
Yeah.
And I think this was, to what we were talking about earlier, it was an example of United's game plan working.
Yes.
Because I think Wolves got pulled out a little bit.
They did.
I think players maybe weren't in the positions that they wanted to be in, and that's why Scott McTominay was able to get that shot off.
I think literally it was Giammattino charges out to Fred when, because Fred arrives late at the top of the box when it's cut back to him, and Moutinho leaves McTominay, and that is literally Keegan being pulled out of where he was supposed to be, marking his man. That's why McTominay's open when Fred can just give him the easy ball, and then McTominay with a great strike into the bottom corner. Yeah. That's what Man United wanted to do to Wolves, right? Because Wolves were always going to sit back when United had the ball in a 5-3-2 kind of shape. That's what they did in the FA Cup, and it absolutely worked. And the goal is always get someone out of position, get someone free. And yeah, like you said, it worked for Scott McTominay in sometime in the first 15 minutes or so?
Yeah, thereabouts. And I think maybe 13th, but I think the other thing that was telling to me, no team has ever looks happy when they've conceded a goal. But here, when you see McTominay score this goal, the Wolves defenders look crestfallen, which is surprising for an early goal.
They had a whole plan,
and
it wasn't for that.
Exactly. I think that's it, is that their plan was to sit back, counter, frustrate, and then take advantage of their opportunities. And I think that this was sort of that game plan out the window a little bit, and really then they have to kind of change it up and find a different way through. But really they end up being helped out by United's mistakes.
Yeah, just over 10 minutes later, it's the 25th minute when Diogo Jota is able to equalise. It all starts with Fred.
Yeah.
It is. So Man United have possession. David De Gea passes the ball to Fred, who is in the midfield three for Man United. He's the deepest of the three midfielders, right? He's like is it fair to call him the pivot? He's going to be the guy that receives the ball deep and makes plays happen.
I think he thought he was the pivot.
He tried to pivot as he received the ball, right? He tried to do that thing where you receive with facing your own goal and you kind of spin as you receive it and turn around. And it wasn't the wrong move. He had plenty of space to do it, but it just got loose from him.
It did. It might be, it was pouring rain, so that might have factored into it, but I think that's not an excuse at
Classic
that level.
West Midlands weather.
Because that's where you've got to anticipate, and that's where you cannot afford to kind of take your foot off the pedal to just sort of lose that focus for a half second, because especially in the Premier League, and especially against a team like Wolves, who will pounce on those opportunities.
Yes.
Did not mean that one. Nope, not at all. You know me. That I think you've got to be extra sharp, and he was not on this occasion. And really, this was kind of what we saw from Fred on a couple different times in this game, was he would make good plays. He would like see smart passes, like shut plays down when Wolves were attacking. But then you would also see him commit silly fouls, give the ball away at times, just look a little bit shakier than I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and me as a United fan would have liked.
And he's not the first choice sort of pivot midfielder, isn't it? Normally Ander Herrera, so it's like Herrera deepest and then Pogba to his left and Matic to his right.
Something like that. I mean, you could rotate that around a little bit on occasion. Sometimes it's Matic sitting because he's not like the rangiest of players anymore. Ander Herrera has a few more legs, but generally speaking, it's one of those two. Yes.
But why wasn't it Herrera? Why was it Fred?
I think they're resting him. I mean, he played this weekend, and I think it was sort of the fixture congestion.
Yeah.
So they wanted to give a break. Same thing for Nemanja Matic. And then maybe it was just also the formation change. They just wanted to try something a little bit different with the three in the back. Maybe he wanted to mix up the midfield as well.
I think it's also, you mentioned Wolves pouncing. I quite like their pun, but I also think it gets to the thing that Wolves are good at, is they don't come out and press you all the time like a famous pressing team, right? They're not a Jurgen Klopp team. But what they do is when they see an error, they're on it fast.
Yep.
And then they go fast. And that's exactly what happens with this ball, right? As soon as Fred makes that, not small mistake, he makes a mistake.
No, it's a big mistake.
But there's another one where he has that loose touch and then he just stumbles for a second and gets back on the ball. But João Moutinho, Wolves midfielder, is like on it as soon as it happens, wins that ball for Wolves. And then it's Moutinho, Dendoncker, Jimenez, Jota, and it's all happened so fast. Suddenly Jota is like staring down David De Gea and scoring way too easily.
Yeah. I mean, what do you mean by way too easily?
Just because it all happens so fast that Jota's chance is absolutely golden and De Gea has no chance.
Because I would say, though, like the only reason why I take objection there, the non-Wolves fan, is because it's not that easy. Like they do a very good job here at Wolverhampton of not just capitalizing on that mistake and getting the ball back. João Moutinho does great, but then it's a quick ball out wide, it's a quick ball back for Jota to get on the end of, and it's a smart run from him to stay on side. It's a lot of clever work, and I say that just to say that I think that, to me, is kind of the hallmark of this Wolves team, is that there's no real like sunk cost fallacy here. It's like they will try something, and if it does not work, they immediately drop back in.
Yeah.
Like they will put that pressure on, and if Fred had successfully pulled off that turn, first off, I don't know if Moutinho even tries to put him under pressure there.
If he doesn't have the poor touch, Moutinho doesn't put him under pressure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then they drop off and they get into shape and they frustrate. There were other times when it did feel like they were going to win the ball off Fred and they kind of went for it. And when he was able to play his way out, they immediately collapsed. It's not like somebody else just comes running and tries to make a play on the ball. So that was what struck me, is just how sharp Wolves are in their decision making and how quickly they will capitalize on those vulnerabilities.
Yep, like a pack.
It's
very on brand. Very on brand.
It really is. I mean, I was avoiding any of those words because it felt too punny for me. But I mean, yeah, it absolutely is. It's a very quick, we've made this decision, we're going for it. Oh, it's not working. Oh, this is a bigger threat than we thought. We'll drop off and we'll fight another day.
Is there any chance that Nuno, the Wolves manager,
there's no chance,
uses that phrasing in the dressing room?
No.
Are you sure?
I mean, I doubt.
Well, maybe he's in sync with the marketing team and they're like, hey, if you're going to do it, just use these words anyway.
I mean, I know you're asking this in jest, but I would say that his lack of like native proficiency when it comes to English.
Yeah.
I've seen him struggle with like more simplified English at times.
You don't think he can do animal metaphors?
No, I don't
analogies?
think that he's working on extended animal metaphor analogies. No.
Fair enough. Fair enough. The other big element in this goal is the involvement of Ashley Young, and essentially Ashley Young and Chris Smalling are not in sync because as the turnover happens and the passes start happening, the key moment is when Jimenez plays that nice little pass through to Jota, who's run beyond. Ashley Young half drops with Jota and then stops chasing him, so he keeps him onside. Chris Smalling steps out for offside and to pressure Jimenez. They're not in sync. And Ashley Young's not even in sync with himself.
No. I mean, and that's where you've got to... It's a strange thing that, like, I understand why he wants to hold that offside line, but if you're going to make that run, you've kind of then... I think a veteran defender knows, oh, never mind, this player's not going to be offside, I've got to follow that run.
Yeah.
Or even if they are, me stopping really fast, I'm like... Because I think at that point he knows, oh, he's ahead of me, so why Ashley Young sort of stopping would make a difference, I don't really know. It seems like it would make much more sense to continue to follow your mark.
Isn't it like, basically, you got to make a choice, right? You either step out and make the offside like a hard offside and go for that, or you chase the man deep and you chase him all the way deep. But you can't do half and half.
No.
Because then you're just going to do exactly what Ashley Young did, which is leave him onside and unmarked.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not trying to fast forward to the goal, but I will say Ashley Young gets a red card, so he's not involved in that second goal. But there are familiar things here because, again, you could talk about the lack of a strong offside line and who's necessarily taking charge, and Chris Smalling stepping out without really conveying that he's stepping out to anybody else.
Yeah.
That's a common problem on both goals. So I think it is Wolves sort of seizing that opportunity, and then it's a good finish from Jota. He, like, very calmly, especially with David De Gea coming out, I think there's not much else David De Gea could have done. It's a smart finish. But I really do think that it's the efficiency of Wolves and that ruthlessness that suddenly really threw off United's game plan, because up until that point, they're ahead, they're coasting, they're pulling Wolves out of what they want to do. Now United can do the approach that they want, they can implement their game plan, and suddenly they've got to go back to the drawing board and figure it out again.
United look shook, right? When Wolves equalised, they really looked shook, because I think they were on target to be coasting.
I believe I'm correct in saying that, like, from kickoff, they move the ball around, and then I forget who it is fails like to complete a 5-yard pass to another player, and it gets picked off. Like, it goes straight to a Wolves player, and that just stood out to me as a like, ooh, okay, they've gone from like being a little bit sharper on the ball to suddenly
the Wolves
wasn't supposed to happen. Yeah, and also maybe they've also been, my guess would be, warned. I heard it. I'm not acknowledging it. They've probably also been warned of that efficiency and of that sort of ruthlessness, and so now they've seen it. They've seen it exemplified in yet another goal, and so I think the players then are so mindful of making those similar mistakes that they stop kind of playing their game and start playing I hope I don't make a mistake sort of game.
Would you agree with me that Ashley Young's second yellow card, where he gets sent off in the 57th minute, which is really where this game turns in Wolves' favour, obviously, is also a result of Wolves pouncing on opportunities and Manchester United just being a bit too timid and scared of it?
I would say even this first yellow card is an example of that, because it's Young sweeping the leg of Diogo Jota.
Yeah.
But again, it's because he has tried to like over pursue because Wolves have won that ball back, and I think he's aware of the quick counterattacking threat.
Yeah.
So Young tries to make a play, realizes he's not going to make it, and then to try to limit the damage, kicks out, makes that contact, gets that yellow. But that's him trying to kind of...
53rd minute, right? And then 4 minutes later, he's off.
And then it's him, basically coming under pressure. You could argue it's like McTominay playing it where Young was, and Young had tried to backpedal to open up a little bit more space. But I think that still Ashley Young didn't really even necessarily need to do that, because I don't think João Moutinho was that much of a threat.
Yeah.
So then it's Ashley Young dropping off because maybe he doesn't want to deal with that level of intense pressure, and instead then has to try to make a play on the ball, and instead gets a second yellow and is off.
And I don't know if this is my fandom, but to me, that what's really impressive to me about what Diogo Jota does in that moment to put Young under pressure is it's only half a mistake, right? Like, it's not like some terrible pass from McTominay. It's not some terrible position from Ashley Young. But it's just, I think it's Jota recognising a moment where Young is going to be slightly vulnerable. So then we pounce, then we go for it. And then he puts him under pressure, wins the ball, forces that really essentially dangerous slide tackle from Young. He's lucky not to get a straight red.
Oh, yeah. I think it could have been as well, because it's over the top, it studs up, it's into the ankle. It could have been a bad injury. It could have been a straight red. I think yellow card.
His ankle
for
bent
sure
under him, actually, right? It's just lucky that it didn't go.
I don't think anybody, even like Chris Smalling runs up to sort of half-heartedly protest, but even he then is like, yeah, I know. It's gonna be a second yellow. But I think watching it again, this whole or the sequences that we watched, I'm with you. It's really impressive to watch Wolves do this, because to have that level of belief and that instinct of now's the time, it's so difficult. I mean, you and I have played in games where it's almost impossible to hold that offside line because you're just so nervous about the threat and you don't want to be the one who's caught out and you don't want to give up a breakaway. I'll just drop a little bit. We'll all just drop a little bit. And to have the discipline to say nope, we are holding that line, even that is very difficult. But to have the discipline to know in a half second, that's the chance. Now we all go. And to know as a unit to all go, the amount of drilling and preparation that takes is amazing.
I would call it very un-Fulham.
Yes. Yes. I think that's
we had that
very
question.
Fair.
We had that question on the show. It's why has it gone so well for Wolves and so badly for Fulham when they seem kind of equal last year? And I think defensive discipline is definitely the answer.
And it's worth noting here that these two games played at the same time. It was Wolves beating Manchester United to almost certainly secure top half of the table, if not battling for that 7th spot, while Fulham are relegated at the same time. It was very poetic, unless you're a Fulham fan.
Okay. Or unless you hate poetry.
Also that.
So there's the winning goal as well for Wolves. It ends up being a cross from Johnny Otto. It is Jimenez and Phil Jones both challenged for the same ball and kind of, I want to say they both head it at the same time, or maybe Jones heads it into Jimenez and the ball just drops down.
Jones heads it into Jimenez.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, I might have got that wrong. I think it was João Moutinho crosses the ball in. Then there's a scramble and Chris Smalling puts it past his own goalkeeper.
Yes, and I think it's easy to blame Chris Smalling for the own goal because it's an own goal. Yeah. I think if you watch it again in super slow motion, you'll recognize that there's really not much he can do at this point, because I think any sort of action is going to make contact with the ball.
And Leon Dendonka's charging through, right? Smalling has to get to that ball before Dendonka, or Dendonka's scoring.
But I emphasize that you can't blame him for the goal itself. There's lots of other stuff you can blame Chris Smalling for here.
Oh, what's that?
I think the two things that stand out to me is, one, he goes charging out because I think he follows Raul Jimenez. Jimenez drops in to try to link up play a little bit for Wolves. Smalling follows him out and I think Jimenez just lays the ball off, and now Smalling recognizes, I've left a huge gap. So then I think he goes sprinting back to try to get into shape, and effectively does so to the point where we freeze framed it. You can see United's kind of flat 5 across the back. They're playing defensive. They've got the offside line.
Yeah.
So that's okay. Smalling's able to recover. But I think the issue that I saw with Smalling throughout this game is that he just looked sort of somber. Every time I saw him, he would make a challenge. There's one, I think he had 2 different times where he cut out a near post cross and turned it out for a corner. One of those times, David De Gea clearly yells for the ball, and Smalling makes a play on it and puts it out anyway. David De Gea is screaming at him, and Smalling gets up, and there's just no reaction. It's just he gets up and walks away from David De Gea. There's no my bad.
That's weird, right? I think Smalling is a bit more talky.
Yeah, and so it seemed weird to me. That's why it stood out to me. Is I didn't see a lot of talking from him. I didn't see a lot of sort of command of the box from Chris Smalling.
Captain? Smalling's captain, right?
He was captain. Yeah. And so then if you watch when João Moutinho plays that ball in, United have gone from a flat 5 to almost like a C. I took a photo of that. Maybe I'll post that to Instagram later. But Phil Jones drops off, Smalling drops off, and suddenly I don't think anybody knows exactly where they're supposed to be. And then the problem there is that once you've dropped off, you let Raul Jimenez attack the ball, as opposed to now he's worried about, am I offside? Am I onside? I need to make sure I'm keeping in line. Instead, he can know he's onside and instead wait and then go at the ball and catches Phil Jones basically flat-footed.
I'd say, so Smalling, I'm guessing, because he's the centre-back and the captain, should be calling where the defensive line is.
Yeah.
But Phil Jones should be doing a better job with this cross, because we both noticed, I think you noticed first, he's very flat-footed.
He's literally flat-footed when the cross comes in.
And he lets Jimenez get the run on him. Yeah. And I think the fact that Jones kind of gets there first, but can only head it down and into Jimenez is a result of his original sort of leaning back kind of positioning, or at least flat-footed positioning.
Yeah, if anything, it's more damning because to me it means that he could still get to it from a flat-footed position. So imagine if he were up on his toes and moving to meet the ball, that ball gets headed clear.
All right, and then to see out this game, Wolves really do see out this game by sitting in that 5-3-2, letting Man United have the ball, move it around, try and open up space, but with 10 men, a determined Wolves doing that defensive thing, there was no way through.
I mean, and to the extent that don't they hit the crossbar very late, Wolves? I think it could have been 3 or 4 to 1 by the end of this game. I'm pretty sure they hit it very late. So yeah, I mean, It's Wolves executing their game plan and executing it perfectly, and United sort of shooting themselves in the foot a little bit, and individual mistakes, maybe with a managerial mistake in there of starting Ashley Young as that right center back, all combining for another loss against Wolves.
All right, so say this game happens again next season, or say it happened again next week, right? Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has lost to Wolves in the FA Cup by going 4-3-3 and attacking them and getting countered. He's lost by basically matching shape, right? He did a sort of, I wouldn't call it a 5-3-2 because it was more wing-backs were way farther forward and Lingard was like floating underneath Lukaku. But he's got a 3 at the back system and it hasn't worked out. What could he do differently if he did it again? I'm thinking of like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's learning curve as a coach. What would he do next time?
You're talking about next like week or next season when they play Wolves again?
Let's say it was next week because then we've roughly got the same players.
Okay. I mean, I think that's the issue. Is I think he was kind of limited by what he can play there because I think right back / right center back is an issue for Manchester United. It's Ashley Young, who's not a right back. It's Antonio Valencia, who's out of favor, out of form, and it also is not a right back. I think Dalot was maybe thought was going to be that right back replacement. Instead, he is proven to be much more effective as an attacking player. So I think it kind of is going to be an issue still, regardless of knowing, Ashley Young maybe can't play right center back. Maybe you go with Phil Jones, but I think we saw communication issues and a kind of a lack of leadership across the back line. Even when Phil Jones was in there, he subbed in later.
Oh, what if Man United are at full strength and everybody's fit and they're not having to rest anyone after playing the weekend? So maybe Eric Bailly could play that right centre back role, and I think he covers more ground than Phil Jones and is more of a natural defender in Ashley Young. Maybe the midfield is Matic and it's Herrera instead of McTominay and Fred. Rashford's in there. Maybe this actually could work just with slightly stronger personnel because Wolves put their best team out there, so they can't strengthen, right? Yeah. So maybe it would work out next time around.
I do think probably if you had Rashford in there, because one thing that you pointed out when we were watching it is that a difference for because the commentator early said like, Manchester United are basically trying to match Wolves like for like to kind of limit their effectiveness. Your point to that was, Wolves have a front too. And United had Lukaku. Yeah. And I do wonder if maybe
Lingard underneath.
If you had Rashford and Lingard as sort of both these very mobile, pacey, clever, technical attackers, if that would have caused Wolverhampton a few more problems. But, I mean, then again, there were lots of missed opportunities for Manchester United, especially in the first half. There's a few different, if not point blank, then very close headers or shots that probably should have come off.
Maybe almost too close because you're heading it right in front of Rui Patricio.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a weird problem to have. Having chances too close to goal.
I suppose, yeah. So maybe, I mean, I don't know if that effectively answers, but that's the difference.
If the XG goes past 1, it resets to 0.
Sure. I don't know how XG works, so sure, why not?
All right, we did 20 minutes on Wolves Man United, the TSS derby.
To be fair, we didn't talk about it last time because I think you had chemo, or I think that was the issue. So maybe this is just making up for lost time when we didn't get to talk about the FA Cup loss for Manchester United. Win for Wolves.
There is, of course, an FA Cup semi-final for Wolves coming up this weekend. It's Wolves-Watford in the FA Cup semi-final on Sunday. I want to say 11 a.m. Eastern.
The Battle of the W's.
In the US, the Battle of the W's. And Man United have the weekend off.
Apparently.
I think, which is great because then they get to rest before the big Champions League game against Barcelona.
Yes.
Yeah?
Oh, boy.
So exciting stuff coming up for both teams.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Good boy.
All right. You nervous already?
Oh, yeah. I've been nervous. Yes.
Barcelona got some good players or something?
Just one or two.
Yeah?
Just one or two. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's cool. They're not rediscovering form and looking deadly at all. It's fine. It'll be great. It's going to be great.
Speaking of rediscovering form, you can rediscover some fashion form if you use today's sponsor, Greats.
I'm not going to lie, I did not know where you were going with that. But you saved it, you made it look good, and I liked it. Just like Greats make you look good by giving you lovely, fashionable, well-made shoes, high-quality shoes that keep smelling like leather. I don't want to point that out there. I think I told you this, that the Greats I'm wearing right now, I've had for like months at this point, like at least 6 months, I think. Still smell like fresh leather. Still smell brand new. It's kind of amazing. It's kind of incredible. I guess that's what like high-quality products will do.
Yes.
They don't break down and look and smell terrible immediately.
So Greats are Brooklyn's first sneaker company. They're designed in Brooklyn, but they're made in Italy by sort of, those artisanal Italian experts who've done it for generations. And like you said, all leather. These are proper shoes.
They are.
Proper sneakers.
And so we took a look at the new options they have because they have the classic options. They have the ones you maybe are familiar with if you've bought Greats before, perused the website before, but they've also got new entries like the Royale Triple Black.
Ooh.
I am a big fan of the all black shoe. I think, is it Jesse Lingard who wears all black? Maybe it's Marcus Rashford. Either way, I love the all black shoes. Oh no, it's Tyler Adams. Tyler Adams is the one who wears the all black shoes. Yeah. Jesse Lingard definitely wears ones with lots of color.
How can Tyler Adams be even more of a favourite player?
I mean, that's one of the reasons why I love him. It's because the all black, especially the matte black, but these have a little shine to them, but I do enjoy those shoes, so they've got them on offer. Again, those would be the Royale Triple Black.
So Triple Black means obviously the shoe is black leather, but the sole is also black?
Yes.
So Black everywhere.
And I think even the laces, black as well. So yes, all black all the way through.
Love it. So it also sounds like the New Zealand rugby team.
Also that.
Yeah. If you would like to purchase Greats, but you'd like to get a discount, we do know that we ran a Greats ad a couple of weeks ago and there was a text message code and it didn't work. So our apologies on behalf of Greats as well, their apologies that did not work correctly. So we've gone back to the old Total Soccer Show discount code, which we know works. It definitely works. It's TSS. 3 simple letters. TSS for 15% off at greats.com. TSS for 15% off at greats.com. Don't text anyone. Just go to the website and do it that way.
I apologize for nothing, but thank you to Greats for sponsoring today's episode. Should we talk a little more Premier League, Mr. Grove?
Yeah, all sorts happened. So Manchester United either fell out of the top 4 or got buried even farther below the top 4.
Yeah.
Were you in the top 4 at the start of the day on Tuesday?
I don't think so. I think they may have been on the... Maybe they were just barely, but yeah, certainly did not seem like they were going to stay that way for very long, and they didn't. Down to 6th.
One of the problems is that Spurs... Problem for Man United, great for Spurs fans. Spurs beat Crystal Palace 2-0. First game at what I believe is called the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
For now.
For now, at least.
Yeah.
We should look into naming rights.
I'm sure we can afford it. Yeah, totally. They're definitely going to be like giving that away at a discount for sure. They haven't spent a lot of money at all.
Maybe everyone else is too scared to bid, so they'll just take the first bid that comes.
Yeah, that could be. Or maybe the people who sang had to like pay for the honor, and that's why they went with the opening ceremony that they did. Okay,
let's start with this then. The stadium looked beautiful. The stadium looked great, right? And I also saw the footage of the beers that pour from the bottom. Have you seen those? Oh, so they have a bar where to make things fast, the way that the pouring the beer works, instead of pouring in the top with a normal tap, it's like a weird contraption where you place the cup on a plate and the beer sort of inserts itself from the bottom up and looks perfect, right? And happens really fast.
Sounds like magic.
So it is magic. So the beers can be poured really quickly.
Is it Harry Potter Stadium?
It may be. They are butter beers.
I was going to say, do you wave a wand and suddenly there's beer in the glass?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and your ticket says station 9 3/4.
Also, if you can conjure your own beer in the Harry Potter world, why would you ever go to a bar? It doesn't make any sense.
I mean,
get it together, Harry Potter.
Also,
world.
they're underage. They can't.
Also
drink,
that.
right? Yeah.
Also that.
So anyway, stadium looks beautiful. The ceremony before with the singing felt a little cheesy to me.
Which part? Like Tottenham Hotspur are the greatest team in the world or whatever it is?
Yeah, well, that's like a fan chant. It's weird to have a singer leading it and singing it, right?
Yeah.
I think.
I don't know.
Maybe Spurs fans loved it. I don't know, but it didn't quite do it for me.
I don't know what you do for the debut of a stadium.
Get Beyonce.
There we go. I mean, but like, really, does any song need to be sung? Like, I guess you have to have some sort of spectacle and pageantry.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
I'm taking all of Lemonade, start to finish, to open the Spurs stadium.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. I disagree. I think that a new stadium is exciting enough. I feel like now I'm just like the miserly father or something. Like, you should be happy with what you got. But like, it's a brand new stadium. You've waited more than half the season for it to open.
Yeah.
Just open the stadium. Have some fireworks. That's great. But like a weird band where 2 different people appeared to not be playing instruments. That was definitely happening. 2 people in the middle were just like smiling and standing there. Like, we're here for some reason.
They were like bears from the Happy Mondays.
Yes.
Or is it Flavor Flav was also the hype man?
Yes. Yeah. Flavor Flav is definitely the hype man. It was a strange
Get
spectacle.
those 2. Get Bears and Flavor Flav. Just get the best hype men and like hype it up before.
And then I'm gonna get in trouble for this one, but I'm okay with it. It's just also the case that like when you're currently battling for like the top 4, or not even battling, but when like you are now involved in the race for the top 4, to come out to this whole pageantry of like we're the greatest team in the world. It's just like we're in the top 4. Like I don't know.
We're at least in the top 4.
Exactly.
Well, they're still in the top 4 after this 2-0 win.
They sure are.
Thanks to goals from Son Heung-min and Christian Eriksen? Christian Eriksen made it 2-0.
Yes. Yeah. And I would say, like, you could say 90% credit to Spurs. We could say 10% credit to Crystal Palace, who didn't want to spoil the debut game, I think is what happened there.
I think that was it. Well, we talked about Wolves maybe choosing their moments when they press and pressure. It seems to me that Spurs just pressed and pressured the whole time and would not let Crystal Palace complete any passes. Yeah. And I think the first goal, the Son goal, basically comes from that. Because how many turnovers did Crystal Palace have in a row before this goal? I want to say it was like 4 or 5.
It was definitely 4 or 5. 3 of them from Van Arnholt himself, I believe, right? He made 3 different errors, including one very bad crossfield giveaway.
But all forced, right? All under pressure from Spurs players. They were putting pressure all over the field to make this happen. It was really impressive.
Was it Mila Jovovich?
Milivojevic?
Yeah. Mila Jovovich is the actress from Resident Evil. That's what I've just done there. But yeah, I would say his wasn't quite as forced. He definitely waits for that ball to come and then tries to be clever with it and gets it poked away by, I believe, Christian Eriksen.
Yeah.
It was interesting
that was the killer one, right? Because that's where the actual goal comes from.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the goals, but I also want to say that one thing I did kind of genuinely enjoy about this game is that it did feel like, because of the kind of the spirit of this Tottenham team, and maybe the fact that some of them are through the academy and some of them have been there for a very long time, it felt more than ever like a game where they really, really wanted to win. Yes. And obviously you always want to win, but you could tell that even like Kieran Trippier at one point in the first half had a shot that went wide, and you could see him sort of look more upset than usual, or just sort of like, that could have been my moment. Like, I feel like they all wanted to be the inaugural scorer, which isn't necessarily a thing that you think athletes really care about in the moment. You have this idea that they kind of switch off and it's all about the immediacy of the game, and it did feel like in moments of this one that each Tottenham player was like, ooh, let me be it. Harry Kane really wanted to be the first one.
It could also be just they wanted a win in the debut game at the new stadium, as opposed to wanting to be the scorer. Right?
Things can be two things.
Things can be two.
But instead it's Son Heung-min who gets the first goal.
Is it though?
We think so.
Or is it Milivojevic? Because he gets tackled in midfield.
It's Milivojevic, but that's fine.
Excuse me.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The Fifth Element.
Yes, the Fifth Element. I like that I went Resident Evil and you went Fifth Element. Way to be a film connoisseur, Daryl Girl.
So Eriksen robs Milivojevic. Yep. Takes a couple touches and then finds Son Heung-min. It's a really nice sort of diagonal pass to slice through what's left of the Crystal Palace defence in transition. Son cuts across. Milivojevic has basically said, all right, guys, I messed this up. I can fix it. Don't worry, I'm going to get there. I'm going to make up for my own mistake. He charges all the way back. He slides in as Son Heung-min is about to shoot, and he redirects it past his keeper to make it 1-0 to Spurs.
And you feel for Lilo Dallas multi-pass because you think that he is going to make that play, and you know that idea of being the one who's like, I can make up for it. I'm going to make up for my mistake. And instead, I think the shot is probably going on frame, but I think given the kind of Song is kind of running at a tight angle, he's got people around him, I don't think he gets as much power behind him as he usually would have liked. I don't know if this is necessarily going to end up in the back of the net.
The deflection happens so quickly, there's not enough angle to tell if it was on target or not, right?
No, but it was enough of a deflection, certainly, to wrong for the goalkeeper, and 1-0 for Spurs.
Yeah,
and I don't think anybody aside from people who really, really dislike Tottenham will be looking too hard at whether or not that one was actually on frame.
Okay, second goal comes from Christian Eriksen, but it's a lot of good work from Harry Kane. And I think a lot of this goes back to the question we had on yesterday's show. Spurs fans didn't hear this. There's a question.
I think Harry Kane heard it and was like, I'm going to prove why I'm so good.
I'm going to prove him right? So there's a question in the middle of yesterday's show where somebody asked us, why is Harry Kane so good? And they asked it with an element of doubt, I think. Like, prove to me, explain to me why people think Harry Kane is so good. And there are many, many reasons, and at least 3 or 4 of them were on display in this. Probably not even credited as an assist because he ends up getting tackled, but he makes this goal happen.
He does, and it was a thing he did on a couple other occasions in this game is he kept noticing that Tompkins, the center back for Crystal Palace, kept standing a couple yards too deep every time. I don't know if that was intentional. I don't know if that was him being worried about a lack of pace. Then again, if it's Harry Kane, I don't know why you'd be like, oh, that blistering pace of Harry Kane. I better give myself some yards.
But then the Son Heung-min may be coming from the other side,
that's
right?
probably more likely. So I think Harry Kane spots that, recognizes the kind of disparity in the offside line, and he keeps going behind the other center back and basically standing in case there's a transition.
So he stands at a distance from Tompkins, but level with Tompkins behind the other centre-back, right? So that, I think, makes it really hard for
And so there's
for
one in
Palace.
the first half. It was in the second half, I think, when basically it's like a failed pass from Crystal Palace gets deflected all the way back to Harry Kane. And he's kind of in on goal. He ends up shooting it over. But it's because he's taken this exact position that he then takes for the second goal. So he's able to get the ball. Now Crystal Palace are kind of in transition. They're flying all over the place. They try to make a play. Debatable if it was going to be a penalty because now Harry Kane is able to get into the box. And again, it's that typical thing that we've seen from Harry Kane where it's not blistering pace, it's just
certainly isn't.
Physicality and the ability to take the angles that never let the defender make too much of a play on the ball till eventually they do, and then maybe it's going to be a penalty.
Maybe could have been. The ref was maybe waiting to see what happened.
I think that's exactly what happened. Yep.
But instead, it pops to Christian Eriksen, and he gets that goal. It was 2-0 to Spurs.
It was two very strange goals. The Son Heung-min one with the deflection was sort of like different than what you'd expect, and then this one, it was so confusing because
probably not how they planned it, right?
No, the reason why I think it was going to be a penalty is because everyone sort of stops, including the stadium. Like they're all screaming, like, "Oh, penalty, penalty!" And then Christian Eriksen scores, and there's that moment of like, okay, yeah, we'll take that.
Even the butterbeers stop pouring.
Exactly.
Just for a second.
The magic held off for just a moment.
The magic was suspended.
Yeah.
Okay, 2-0 to Spurs. I've just pulled up the Premier League table. That puts them third in the Premier League. 1 point above Arsenal, which is a lovely way to open the stadium if you're a Spurs fan,
I would say that would make them very happy. Yep.
Also getting a win, Chelsea.
Didn't see that coming.
Beat Brighton 3-0. Didn't see that coming against Brighton?
I mean, well, I guess not in the emphatic style, but then to go back and watch, we caught the very end of this one, and to see how empty the stadium was, I feel like there were some fans there who didn't want them to win this game almost.
You really think that?
I mean, not really.
It was the lowest attendance of the season, but it was only 2,000 or 3,000 under capacity.
At the start. But it was strange to me that Chelsea finally winning, a 3-0 win, goals, looking happy, and yet at the end of that game, that stadium was, I'm going to be generous and say, I'm going to say like 2/3 full, maybe half full. And then when the final whistle goes, the majority that I saw stand up and start walking. There's not the applause. There's not the like, yeah, we've done it. We've rallied. And so I guess you're right. Nobody, like, they probably weren't going there to like cheer for a loss. But I also think that the way things are now, the way the fans seem to feel about Maurizio Sarri, it definitely wasn't like, never mind, we're coming back around. It was sort of like, we don't care. This is a one-off result.
Do you think there's that thing of like, a lot of England fans felt this when Steve McLaren was the coach. Like, maybe it's better if we just lose so we can get rid of him.
Possibly.
Yeah, there's an element of that creeps in with a lot of fans, right?
Yeah. It's. Do you remember the 30 Rock season when like the governor who's running as vice president looks exactly like Tracy, and so they like it's Jack's debate of like it makes the governor more likable and thus more electable, but he's trying to like bomb the network, so he's trying to tank the network, so then it gives them better ratings. So it's a problem either way. It's felt like that. It's like, well, we don't want him to win, but we don't want to lose. But we really don't like him, but we like some of the players, and I think it leaves him in a conundrum that leads to the stadium emptying out very quickly.
Well, the people that were there to begin with saw at least 3 really good goals, actually. Hazard's goal's great. Ruben Loftus-Cheek's goal's really nice.
Yep.
But the one we were most excited about is the Callum Hudson-Odoi assist to Olivier Giroud.
Because we love when a forward scores with their plant foot. Is that why?
So this is an interesting thing.
Of course that's not
I think
why.
I said this to you at the time. That's actually an incredible finish from Olivier Giroud. He arrives at the far post.
Near post.
Excuse me. Arrives at the near post and is almost facing the opposite direction, but uses his plant foot to redirect it. It's absolutely brilliant.
It's like he stands and kicks with the same foot at the same time.
Yeah, and so much misdirection and cleverness and strength from Olivier Giroud. But it's the classic thing where Olivier Giroud did something amazing, and all we want to talk about is Callum Hudson-Odoi. It seems like the epitome of Olivier Giroud's career. Like he won the World Cup, but we were all talking about Kylian Mbappe.
Yeah,
Paul Pogba.
pretty much. Yes,
because they're just more exciting and more fun to watch.
But here it's Callum Hudson-Odoi finally getting his first Premier League start.
Yes,
and getting an assist in it and looking very exciting, very deadly, very problem creating if you're the defense.
Problematic
on that right-hand side.
if you're a Brighton
if you're Christian Pulisic, maybe also problematic.
That's an interesting element to this, right? Assuming Hazard leaves, maybe Pedro leaves, there's still like Hudson-Odoi's in your right wing spot that you prefer. And he's starting to pick up steam.
Yeah,
right?
he's leaving Dortmund where he's playing out of position when he wants to be playing on the right to move to Chelsea where he'll be likely playing out of position, not on the right.
So I don't know the name of the left back. I'm sorry that he goes past, but it's a nice little. It's almost like he waits and waits and waits, and the left back knows that
Steve Brighton was his name.
Is going to the end line, but when it happens, he can't stop him.
Nope.
So he gets to the end line, and then it's a perfect low ball into Olivier Giroud.
Yeah, and it's a good finish. And then Olivier Giroud ends up, I think, sitting against the near post because of the angle that he falls. But yeah, it's Chelsea ending up getting the win. Again, moving them into 5th now. So Manchester United falling further down the table with that result.
Chelsea 5th with 63 points. Arsenal 4th with 63 points, but a slightly better goal difference.
And then further up the table.
Top of the table, Manchester City won 2-0 today. I've forgotten who they played. Who did Manchester City beat 2-0? Cardiff City with the dragon on the crest.
Not a good look.
Every time it flashes on the screen, I'm like, oh, some weird graphic design thing has happened here.
It looks like when my niece has too many stickers and she's just like, it look like the piece of art that she's done looks nice, and then there's just one more sticker put on it for some reason. Like somebody found a dragon sticker and was like, yeah, you know what, why not? Just put it in there.
One sticker too many.
Yes.
Yeah, one sticker too many. Nice goal from Kevin De Bruyne. Lovely goal from Leroy Sané with that great, is it a head or a chest back from Gabriel Jesus?
It's a chest back from Gabriel Jesus.
I really enjoyed that from Gabriel Jesus.
It's like the power pectoral almost. Directionally pass it back with one peck.
Do you think he works on those pecs so that he can do the power pectoral to
almost
set up Leroy Sané?
Yes.
Go on, Gabriel Jesus. So that puts Man City top on 80 points. Liverpool 1 point behind on 79. They have both played 32 games. Liverpool play Southampton on Friday for the chance to go top once again before the weekend.
And Guardiola afterwards said, I think either they can't afford to drop any more. I think he said they cannot afford to drop any more points for the remainder of the season because that's the way he expects this title challenge to go, down to the wire. And I think that indicates that he's expecting Liverpool to win all of their remaining games to keep it tight at the top.
It's a fun title race.
Yep.
I'm enjoying it. All right. Also fun, investing.
Yeah.
Investing is fun thanks to Robinhood. Robinhood is an investing app that lets you buy and sell stocks, ETFs, options and cryptos, all commission free. Ryan Bailey does it and he's a millionaire, I've heard.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, he was all about it, so much so that it made me feel like a slacker for not doing it. So I think next week when I finally have a little bit of free time, I may start experimenting with the Robinhood because it was like the things he was talking about like it recommends like similar stocks or familiar stocks, and it can help you kind of learn more about what they are and why they might be appealing. Mm-hmm. That is really appealing to me because I don't really know that much about these things, and I'm the person who, if there are 500 positive Amazon reviews and 2 negative ones, I'm like, well, let's see the negative ones just to see.
Yeah.
So I feel like I tend to take a too critical eye and weigh too heavily on the criticism. So the idea of having sort of more nuanced evaluations, I would appreciate.
And if you want to get into it, there's easy to understand charts and market data. You can do a trade in just 4 taps on your smartphone. Even you and I could manage that, Taylor, right? And you also get notifications. You can like follow certain stocks.
4 is a lot. But
get notifications when they go up or down. Kind of like you get notifications for your soccer team when things happen.
Yes, exactly. And to clarify, I'm saying 4 is a lot for me because, clicking is hard. For you, it'd be no problem. If you were gonna like buy or sell top 4 teams, Daryl Grove, I'm gonna assume that you would have Liverpool and Man City in there.
Yeah. So you're asking me would I buy top 4 stock in Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea, or Man United?
Yep.
After today, I'd want to say Tottenham.
Yep.
Because the new stadium, there's like a certain push with all that.
I would agree with that one. It comes down to those final 3.
But there's also Champions League coming, and I like the look of Arsenal lately. So my stock would be in North London. How about
that? Well, you could say those two right there.
My stock, like my real estate, would be in North London.
All right. Well, you can't necessarily buy stock in those clubs, much fun as that would be. But Robinhood is giving listeners of Total Soccer Show a free stock like Apple, Ford, or Sprint to help you build your portfolio. You can sign up at soccer.robinhood.com.
That's soccer.robinhood.com. If you didn't get a chance to write it down, don't worry. The link is in the show notes. You can just click on it there. It's also on our page, totalsoccershow.com/advertisers. Go there and you'll see the soccer.robinhood.com link.
We've been talking about the Premier League, but Daryl Grove, now I think it's time to talk about the greatest league in the world. Should we talk about the Scottish Premier League?
Yeah, let's do that.
Because I just want to point out, how many leagues around the world did Timothy Weah score in today? The answer is 1, and it's the Scottish League.
Celtic 2, St Mirren 0, under new coach Neil Lennon since Brendan Rodgers left for Leicester. Timo Weah finally got a start.
He did.
And he very soon afterwards got a goal.
He did.
In, I believe, the 13th minute.
I think the announcers weren't sure of that for a little while, but yes, in the end, it was Timo Weah with a goal.
This was a weird goal.
It was.
This was a weird goal,
definitely
right?
Was.
So
yes.
I recommend going and finding it and getting a look. But essentially, it ends with Lustig, the Celtic Swedish right-back, in the box, and he has 2 goes at goal that are very right-backy. He's sort of... One is hit low and weak, and I think it's the keeper.
Fired at defenders.
He gets, shots fired by defenders.
Lustig and Ashley Young should have switched spots. Let's put it that way. That would have made the difference.
He gets a second pop at it, does Lustig, and I think he hits the keeper again, and the ball pops up in the air.
Yeah.
Tim Weah challenges for it in the air.
No, it spills back to him, and I think he tries to get another shot and ends up kind of lifting it up in the air to Timo Weah. But again, I'm not even sure that was intentional. I think he's just trying to make a play on the ball.
He's trying to score, right? He's trying to score like a Swedish right back.
Like a Swedish right back.
The ball pops up in the air. Timo Weah wins the header, heads it against the bar. Then the ball goes down, and it does land just behind the line.
Yes.
But then it bounces back out, and for good measure, Oliver Burke blazes it over the bar.
He does, and the commentators laughed and laughed. I also enjoyed that they still were suspicious if it was going to be a goal, because on the first replay, you can hear the color commentator say, like, oh, he's got to be scoring that. And then as they cut to the other angle, he remembers what happened and said, like, and he did! Like, it was like, I think he really thought he missed it. And he came really close to it. I will say this, like, it's great that Timothy Weah started. It's great he scored. It was not the goal that I would have liked to have seen.
Yeah, we were hoping for something else to analyze, right?
No. Yes, we were. But also, it's a kind of fortuitous goal in the sense that, like, he rises to meet this header. That's good. But the goalkeeper's out. It's an open goal, essentially. He's challenged by the other defender, but it's still... The header, when he wins it, goes up, which is not what you're supposed to do when you're trying to put that header on frame. And it's not from very far out. So to hit the crossbar, that easily could have come right back out. Yeah. And really it does. It hits the underside of the bar, goes down, just barely crosses the line. And
just like in 1966.
And then because of the spin, it actually comes back out of the goal, and then the goalkeeper palms it away.
Yeah.
I don't think that there was the like the Hawkeye goal line technology, I think the AR just put the flag up because you can see
the Hawkeye was in the ref's head.
Exactly, yeah. And the goal is given, I think justifiably so, rightfully so. But it was still just a little bit like, ooh, why couldn't you just bury that one with a head? And then it's like a nice routine header. We know he can get the poacher's goals.
I think the way to look at this is, so after Brendan Rodgers left, Neil Lennon was not as big of a fan as Tim Weah as Brendan Rodgers was. Yeah. So Tim Weah's been basically coming off the bench for 10 minutes for the last month or so. It really has been like 12 minutes here, 9 minutes there. Not a lot of chance.
At best. And then there's games where it's not even on the bench or not playing at all.
And then this past weekend was the Old Firm derby. Didn't even get a minute, which is, if you're going to go and play for Celtic, that's the game once they're at the Champions League, that's the game you want to play in, right? So Tim Weah didn't get to do that. They rotated a few guys out, basically because the Old Firm derby was this weekend. This game was just a few days later, so essentially some of the starting attackers, like Scott Sinclair, essentially was rested. That's why Tim Weah got that spot on the left wing.
And Hudson Edouard, who scored 2 or looked the best player in the Old Firm derby.
So he was rested as well. So at least Tim Weah did something with his opportunity. It means there's a better chance of him getting future minutes under Neil Lennon.
It's also the case that I would agree with that. And then I would add that
if Neil Lennon knows what he's doing.
If he does.
Cares about the US men's national team.
Big old if there. But I would also say that Timothy Weah, it is also a nice thing where you see some of like the younger players, like Christian Pulisic, Tyler Adams, both very good, don't get me wrong, but you can tell that they're younger, they're still kind of slight of frame. Weah came in there and looked like, I was like, oh, that's him? Wow. Like, he looks big and strong, and like he had no problem like muscling people off the ball. So I like that
Isn't
he's
that the age, like 18 or so, is when you start to beef up a little bit and you stop being a skinny teenager?
But it might also be that that's, again, why he was sent to Celtic, was to kind of toughen up and like learn how to ride some of those physical challenges.
Eat some of those fried Mars bars that Glasgow's famous
Kylian
for.
Mbappe did, and that's why he's diving in the Coup de France game or whatever it is. Coup de France. Coup, I think, would be a very different thing.
Yeah.
It's also, did you see the story like recently? Maybe it was around national team camp that like PSG didn't communicate with him very much, that he like thought he was going to be with the team after preseason, and then suddenly it was like, nope, you're just out. So I think it sounds like communication wasn't great, so I'm hoping that there was an intentional plan why PSG sent him to Celtic, and it was to like toughen up and get experience and get goals, and then maybe you come back, and not just like, yeah, sure, why not? Celtic seems fine.
All right. Let's hope
I brought you down, have I?
Let's hope he gets enough minutes between now and the Gold Cup that he's a serious contender to play in the Gold Cup and get cap-tied in the Gold Cup.
That would be fine with me as well. Yes.
Permanently. Okay, another young goal scorer in Europe this past weekend was a man whose I've learned to pronounce his name as Moise Kean.
Yep.
Because that's how his mother pronounces it. Okay.
And as the commentator said, if it's good enough for his mother, it's good enough for me.
There we go. So Moise Kean scored in the 85th minute to make it 2-0 against Cagliari. He had been booed and racially abused throughout the game. Moise Kean goes and essentially gives the Cagliari fans a stare down, right? Because it's 2-0, game's over in the 85th minute. I just buried you, is what he's saying to it. You racially abused me for the whole game, and I buried you. Yeah.
And with that, like, but even then, you could hear what you've just said and think like that meant he like did gestures or like did a digging gesture.
Oh,
like,
no.
He just stands there, arms out, like, what of it?
Yeah, I think I made it more dramatic than it was, actually. But it was
pretty dramatic to see him stand there kind of motionless, staring at the fans. Yeah. But yes, it wasn't like a lot of action behind it or anything.
It was very stony-faced. I kind of like the power of it myself. Yeah,
absolutely.
Similar to the Raheem Sterling getting racially abused in Montenegro, and sort of, he did I can't hear you. Yeah. I can't hear you now.
And a little bit of
gesture.
A shame finger.
Level with a shame finger as well. More racial abuse followed, right? And then Juventus's Bonucci. I blew everybody's mind by saying the latter rate of racial abuse was 50-50 Cagliari fans' fault and Moise Kean's fault. Am I misquoting him, or is that actually what this is?
There were racist jeers after the goal. Blaise heard it and was angered. Blaise Matuidi.
Yeah.
I think the blame is 50-50 because Moise shouldn't have done that, and the Curva should not have reacted that way. We are professionals. We have to set the example and not provoke anyone. Said the man who, when he moved to Milan, briefly before moving back to Juve, when the Juve fans were mean to him about his wife and kid, he like celebrated in front of them and reacted angrily and yelled at some fans. But yeah, sure, okay, cool.
Different when it's you, isn't it?
Of course,
Bonucci. I'm also hearing in that. I've just realised I'm hearing in that statement very fine people on both sides.
I mean, it feels that way, right? So then he came out today, adding,
Bonucci?
"My words have been clearly misunderstood. Hours and years wouldn't be enough to talk about this topic. I firmly condemn all forms of racism and discrimination. The abuses are not acceptable at all, and this must not be misunderstood." Yeah, that's great. But that's sort of, again, it's also saying, like, I'm sorry you misunderstood what I said, and not really clarifying what he meant to say, because then you have people debating, like, well, was he saying that, like, Kean should have gone and celebrated with his teammates, or was he saying that, like, it was racist and it was bad? Like, it just, you have to clarify better than that if you want to clarify an initially very stupid statement.
I think he should have just completely walked it back, because I think what he said is that type of, I think of it as, like, insidious racism. Maybe, I don't know if that's the right word or not, but it's when you don't even know you're being racist and you're making the problem worse with your words, right? You think you're saying the right thing, but you're actually making the problem worse. You're definitely not part of the solution.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
You're not the calorie fans, but you're also not helping.
It feels slightly to me like if you're a defender who's kind of built your reputation on being like hard and like nothing gets to me, I have no like issues.
Yeah.
To then be like, that's how you're supposed to be. Like, it's never been a problem for me. Why are you letting it get to you? And it's like, well, slightly different situations here, Leonardo. Like, and so it felt a very tone deaf, and certainly not what you would like to hear from a kind of like big figure in global soccer, one of the best center backs in the world. You would have liked him to take a stronger stance. The way, I mean, he notes it there, the way Blaise Matuidi did.
Yep.
Like, Matuidi was clearly furious. Allegri, I think, was trying to get him to calm down and just trying to get him to like play on. Matuidi wanted none of that. The referee stops the game. Matuidi continues to be upset about it. Part of this is because these same fans racially abused him last January 2018.
Didn't have to apologize.
The club apologized. Again, that sort of mealy mouth, like, if it happened, we apologize. We, respect equality. It's like, okay, well then remove the if. Like, it's just, if there's no sense, it doesn't matter, like, how do I say this? It's not that it did, like, it doesn't matter if it happened. It's more so that, like, if the player is saying it happened and his teammates are saying it happened, I don't know why clubs think like, well, our fans might be mad if we say don't do that. Like, if that's the people you're trying to appease, you're appeasing the wrong people.
Yep. Also, we went back and made sure we watched this. I thought maybe there was an element of like, maybe there was no racial abuse, and then Kean scores the goal, and then he sort of confronts the fans, and then there's racial abuse.
Yeah.
Still not okay, but it makes Bonucci's comment make a little more sense, right? We went back and watched. Second or third minute, the first time Moise Kean receives the ball, those fans start specifically booing and making noises when Moise Kean gets the ball, right? This was happening from the absolute start of this game.
And this is where, like, you said the word insidious before, and I think it applies.
I'm not fully sure what it means, but I think it's the right word.
It's when you drift off via astral projection into a place where a demon takes your body. I think that's insidious.
That's a movie, right?
Oh, that could be. That could be. My mistake. In this case, I think it's insidious to me, same way with, like, Montenegro, that if you watch it, like, you hear the boos. Exactly. You hear the boos right from the start, but you might just think, well, I don't hear the obvious racism there because you can't hear it. You can't necessarily hear it via the mics, via the broadcast. And so you might just think like, oh, he's getting booed and he doesn't like it. Because it's not as overt as throwing a banana on the field or having just a racist banner. And that to me is more of the problem. It's that like overt racism, you can see it and it is punished right away. But if it's just little comments here, it's little like monkey chants here and there, which is what it allegedly was, you don't hear that as much on the broadcast, and so then it becomes a little bit more of like, well, our fans wouldn't necessarily do that, and like we don't know.
Gives you out, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think it is a little bit more like just like it's hidden but not hidden.
Yeah.
And so it ends up being this sort of like controversial thing that should not be controversial. And I mean to say like his reaction and the reaction of his teammates like shouldn't be the issue here.
And here's where, in a weird way, here's where I like this is going. I like Moise Kean challenging the crowd. I like what Sterling did in Montenegro. I like that after Bonucci's comments, I think I saw Memphis Depay, Raheem Sterling, I can't remember who else, like basically a series of high-profile black players.
Ian Wright. Daniel Sturridge has come out. Yep.
Jeremy Abobasi, I saw.
Borussia Dortmund.
Well. Yeah, so like a lot of people just essentially telling Bonucci, you're an idiot, shut up. Everybody.
Mario Balotelli, if you didn't say him.
Mario Balotelli, that's what I meant, yeah. Everybody backing Moise Kean, everybody sort of supporting players when they just outright confront the racism. I think that's the way to go. It's the way for like everybody to just get behind the players that are willing to stand up to this stuff. And again, there's no correct response, right? If you're a player who maybe doesn't want to confront fans when you're confronted with this, that's okay too, right? You don't have to be a gladiator and challenge everybody every time. But I also support players who want to do it.
Yeah. And I also want to add, because we had some negative response, Ryan and I did, to the conversation we had about Montenegro, because I was saying, and Ryan was too, I don't want to like take all the credit here, but I was saying that like, you want to see the opposition like players also kind of take a stand here and have some action, and you did see this with the Cagliari. I forget who it was, but he went over and told the fans.
He was the captain.
Yeah, I think he told him to stop. And again, to me, that's evidence that it was definitely happening, because if they're just booing a player they don't like, there's no way that you're going to go over there and be like, hey, be nice to the other team. Yes, he just scored, but just be nice to him. Like, it is clearly indicating that he heard it and knew it was happening and told them to stop.
I mean, there's no debate that this happened or not.
No, it just frustrates me that seems to be the way this gets explained away by the clubs and the organizations.
Yes,
of like, well, we don't know, but if it happens again, say no to it and kick it out. It's just like, yeah, great phrases, do something.
But here's the point I want to end on. People like Raheem Sterling and Moise Kean being willing to sort of stand up and Blaise Matuidi and make this a high-profile thing and not let anyone get away with it, I think it puts more pressure on fans and clubs to take some action and brings it more to light. Yeah?
Yeah.
So maybe that's where we're going. Fingers crossed.
I'm trying to calm down now.
Okay.
I was about to get real mad and go on an even longer rant.
Would you like some scouting to help you calm down?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah. Should we go to the total?
We're all humans. Just be nice to each other. It's not that hard. It's really not that hard.
Shall we go to the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network, of which Moise Kean is a member?
Making me throw my pencil away.
He is one of the Scouties.
Stupid racists.
Who's up first, Taylor Rockwell?
Sam Nelson, scouting Ulysses Yanez, 18-year-old American forward for Wolfsburg.
This is good news.
It is. Uli turned 18 on April 2nd and tweeted that he officially joined Wolfsburg in the Bundesliga. Although he cannot be registered to play in games because it's outside of a window, Uli will train with Wolfsburg and is available to play in unofficial matches.
We are stacking these young Americans in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. John Samponia is scouting Jalen Lindsay. Oh, I know about this. This is not good news, is it? 19-year-old American defender for Sporting KC. John says Jalen will be out for 4 to 5 months after successfully having surgery to repair his meniscus. This is a setback on multiple fronts, as Jalen was set to play a prominent role in the US Under-20 team in addition to getting regular first-team minutes with Sporting KC. This was huge for the US at the U20 World Cup because you have the smaller roster, right? I think it's 21 players maybe you can take. And Lindsay was one of those guys that could play like either side fullback and maybe centre-back if he had to. So this is not good for the US Under-20s. Let's hope for a speedy recovery for Jalen Lindsay.
I'm going to get my soapbox here. I'm going to say we need to abolish April Fools because amongst many other things that I do not enjoy about April Fools, this was announced on April Fool's Day. And so there was that moment of like, wait, is this real? Are they just messing with me? Am I sad now? What's happening here? So no more April Fools.
No more April Fools.
Yeah.
Good
We're just going straight to April 2nd. That's how it's going to work. Travis Mitchell scouting Jose Carranza, 20-year-old midfielder for Unattached FC. It seems like Carranza's career was on the it seemed like Carranza's career was on the upward slope when he was called into the U20 camp in January. However, he did not feature in any of their games. To make things even worse, Carranza has recently been released from Louisville City FC, citing that the player needs to mature and focus on being a more professional player. With that in mind, Travis has asked if maybe there are any other potential players available for him to scout.
Yes, we can do that.
I think he included a few specific ones, so you can check that one. But I think like Trey Muse was in there.
Okay, so I'll check it.
He was wondering if anybody was scouting.
I'll check Travis's email, but I'm always really interested in careers like this because this could come back around.
Yeah.
Right?
Could.
Or it could not.
Mark
Ryan is scouting Giovanni Simeone, the 23-year-old Argentinian forward for Fiorentina. Mark says Simeone scored his 6th goal for Fiorentina in a 1-1 draw against Torino. Simeone was not included in recent friendly matches for the national team, and the buzz around him seems to have subsided quite a bit this year. His goal was a nice one-on-one with the keeper, but his performance is notably down from last year.
Oof. Yeah. So, not the happiest of reports. We're going to end on a medium one. Daniel Pitcock scouting Falarin Balogun, the 17-year-old English forward for Arsenal.
You said English like it's official?
Falarin Balogun. Well, we'll see. Balogun has reached 20 goals in the U18 Premier League, 9 of which have come since the beginning of February. Balogun is quote-unquote open to playing for Nigeria, although they have yet to reach out to him, so it seems like the U.S. is last on his list of possible national teams, but you never know.
Gold Cup call-up!
Oh, Gold Cup. There we go.
I'm just kidding.
Get him in there.
I'm just kidding.
That should do it.
So thank you to Sam,
It
John,
always
Travis.
works really well when the United States promises players spots on rosters in exchange for committing their future national team careers to them.
It certainly does. Thank you also to Mark and Daniel for today's scouting reports. If you'd like to join the Scouting Network, it's totalsoccershow.com/join. If you've recently joined and you haven't received a player, which I think is true of a lot of people because I've been a little bit behind, send me an email, Daryl at totalsoccershow.com. Tell me I'm waiting for my player and I will get your player to you as soon as possible. A couple of people already have. I'm working on it, I promise.
You promise?
I promise.
You promise?
I promise I'm working on it.
There we go.
Which is almost as good, right? I promise by the end of the week I will get players to you if you email me before Thursday afternoon.
Do you swear on your mother's grape?
I swear on my mother's grape.
Yeah. That's another Tracy Morgan line.
The whole bunch. Taylor Rockwell. Let's just quickly talk about what we're doing the rest of the week, right? So we're going to be back in here, in this very office, on Thursday. We're going to watch the US women's national team against Australia. We're going to get a good look at what Jill Ellis is doing this time.
We are.
Is she playing Mel Pugh in central midfield? What else could she play?
4 goalies. Why not?
Why not, indeed? Why not? Then Friday, I'm going to be talking to Joe Lowry about MLS tactical trends. We haven't done a lot of MLS coverage lately. There's been a lot of interesting, weird tactical things going on, like Almeida's man marking stuff. Do you remember all that from the Western Conference preview? Apparently it's not going well.
Not so well.
Apparently it's not going well.
Not so much.
Apparently man marking leaves a lot of holes.
A little bit.
And teams are scoring goals in those holes.
That sounds right.
Yeah, so we're going to get into that and lots of other tactical trends.
So when you're not here, I only talk to English people, and when I'm not here, you only talk to Americans? Is that about right?
They're everywhere around here.
I mean, they seem to be.
Yeah. So,
more and more of them every day.
Anything else from you before we say goodbye?
Nothing else from me before we say goodbye.
Then I will say, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
I've said nothing else, so I can't really then add that. Yeah, right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.
I make myself laugh.